Hello, Happy New Year. I'm going to go ahead and do a reading here. This is by B.R. Kingsolver, and it's called Full Moon. And I'm not certain how much of this. It looks like it's 16 pages, so I will go ahead and do an excerpt tonight, and then later on, when I have more time, I'll read the full chapter. I pulled my pickup truck onto the lot and parked it under a street lamp. After checking the locks on the gun rack behind the seat, I put my sidearm and holster into the glove box and locked it. I slid the 2-shot Derringer into my bra. The knives in my boots, I took those as a given. Checked every morning when I got dressed. El Lobo Cantina, what a creative name. I walked in the front door and looked around. There weren't a lot of customers on a Wednesday night. It was no surprise that this place smelled like a dog. Taking a deep breath and regretting it, I approached the bar and settled on a stool. The bartender walked over, and I pushed my business card toward him. "Is Carlos Lopez here?" He glanced at the card and then my face. His eyes slid down, lingering on my chest, then rose back up to my face. His smirk froze. "Carlos?" I suggested. I understood why he didn't think my smile was very friendly. I wanted to rip that smirk off his face, permanently. "Si, senora. He's here," the bartender said, instantly sober. "I'll get him." He whirled around and headed toward a closed door in the corner. The bartender knocked and then opened the door. He spoke quietly, then returned to the bar, leaving the door open. I ignored him, my attention focused on the open door. A man emerged, 6 feet tall and powerfully built. With a smile on his broad face, he walked toward me and extended his hand. "Senora Cortez, I'm Carlos Lopez. Thank you for coming. Won't you come on back?" "Senorita," I said, taking his hand. "My apologies," he said. "Would you like something to drink or eat?" "Negro Modelo, if you please," I said. Lopez nodded to the bartender, who scuttled to a cooler and pulled out a dark bottle, popping the cap and handing it to me. His attitude was very subservient, a major change from when I'd first approached him. "Gracias," I said, taking a pull on the bottle. I slid off the bar stool and followed Lopez into his office. He settled behind a large desk and motioned me toward a hard-backed chair. "Thank you for coming," he repeated, reading my business card, glancing up at me and then back to the card. "I understand you have a situation," he said. "I checked on you, and I'm curious as to why you think you need my services. You have a reputation of being very capable. I'd think you would be able to take care of my issues in your territory." Indeed, Carlos Lopez was a respected alpha, leader of a werewolf pack numbering over 100 strong. There were 3 packs in New Mexico, and his in Santa Fe was the largest. Lopez took a deep breath and sat back in his chair. "I and the other alphas have tried to resolve the problems, but when you've tried everything and failed, it's time to bring in a consultant. You can highly recommend it." He dipped his head in a self-deprecating new word for me. He dipped his head in a self-deprecating way and gave me a broad smile. In spite of myself, I laughed. An alpha with manners. It was refreshing. "Senor Lopez," I said, "you said in your email that you had a problem, but you didn't specify the problem." He raised his nose and sniffed. "You're some kind of cat," he said. "Yes," I answered, taking a swig of my beer. "You understand packs?" he asked, watching me closely. Cats tend to be solitary animals, as opposed to the pack instincts of wolves and other canids. I gave him a smirk of my own. "Yes, I understand the pack mentality. I've worked with a number of different supernaturals." I sighed. "Senor, I have a doctorate in psychology and a doctorate in animal behavior. I'm old enough to have taught your grandmother to suck eggs. I survived Montezuma and Cortez. My rates are high, but I deliver. Now, let's stop beating around the bush and get to the point." I leaned forward. "Let's get something straight. You're not interviewing me to determine if you'll engage my services. I'm interviewing you to determine whether I'm willing to take an engagement. So far, I like you. You have a good reputation as a pack leader, but I'm very curious as to what kind of problem a pack alpha needs an outsider to help himself. But I'm very curious as to what kind of a problem a pack alpha needs an outsider to help him solve." His eyes ran up and down, surveying me. I knew that package wasn't very impressive. A full-figured Mexican peasant woman with a stereotypical Mayan nose. I wore blue jeans, a loose white blouse, and a khaki jacket. It'd been over 300 years since anyone called me beautiful. I really didn't care what he thought of my looks. "There's a rogue pack," he finally said. "A bunch of young males who are acting out and gone out on their own. They've been killing livestock and wild game, terrorizing humans in remote areas, and trying to lure away young females. We know who they are, but can't find them. We've tried. It wasn't considered a major problem until they expanded their activities." "Terrorizing humans," I said. He nodded. "That, and they've started taking cattle and sheep from human ranchers. At first they preyed on livestock from ranches owned by werewolves. Lately they've taken some cattle from other ranches. We can't afford that." There's a wolf reintroduction program in the southwest corner of the state. Those wolves haven't traveled up here, but we don't want anyone investigating the possibility that they have. Nervously swiveling back and forth in his chair, he said, if the feds are forced to investigate the possibility that the Mexican gray wolves have moved out of their territory in the Gila, they're likely to see evidence of my pack's activity. And the sheriff here isn't stupid. I get the feeling sometimes that he's sensitive. I'm a law-abiding citizen, but he directs far too much attention at me and my pack. Okay, I said. Drop the other shoe. What moved you to call me? He took a deep breath and swiveled his chair away from me, staring into the distance. Then he swiveled back. Last week, a small rancher was found dead. His throat was torn out. The body was near a dead horse. It was obvious that more than one animal had fed on the horse. The sheriff was in here asking questions. It was my turn to take a deep breath. This was bad. The supernatural community was pretty fragmented, but one thing they all agreed upon was that their existence needed to stay a secret. Lopez's rogues had crossed a line. What do you want me to do? I asked. Bring them in if you can. Let us deal with them. Take them out if you have to. He shook his head. Most of them are good kids, just a bit wild, but we can't afford for this behavior to continue, putting all of us in jeopardy. How many of them are there? 10 or 12 young males? A couple of young females. Teenage girls have recently disappeared. We think they might have joined the rogue pack. Call me Isabella, I said. I'll take the job. Okay, and I will most definitely be doing a full reading on this later on. So for now, I'll go ahead and close up. Again, this was called Full Moon by B.R. Kingsolver. So thank you very much.